At the estate of Marquise Hugo, a young woman as stunning as Sleeping Beauty lies asleep. Her name is Aracelia. She is such a character that she deserves a stylish introduction. Her eyes snap open and she dashes to the family dining room, demanding everyone's attention. She announces herself as the top admission and valedictorian of the Academy's magic department, the top recruit for the Magic Tower, a countship recipient for first-class merit, young and wealthy with personal assets exceeding 3 billion gold, and a candidate for the next Magic Tower master whose achievements outshine her beauty, which once earned her the title of one of the Academy's 3 goddesses. This is her, Aracelia Hugo. Then she drops the bomb. She is getting married and her fiancé is Lord Damien Vandermeer. Everyone freezes, their expressions as blank as spilled tea. Chaos erupts. Aracelia Hugo, who just announced this absurd marriage, is a genius mage known worldwide for her eccentricities. 3 years ago, she had declared she would never marry, planning to dedicate her life to the Magic Tower, and asked her family to accept her plan. Now she busies herself with lunch, casually terrifying everyone around her. Her mother flops forward in disbelief, while her father attempts to calm her, insisting their daughter must still be dreaming. Aracelia beams, asking what if she's wide awake and ready to stir some mischief. Her mother groans, nearly tipping over in her chair, while her father tries to steady her. The lady demands to know why this sudden marriage, convinced her daughter might be plotting the end of her sanity. Even her older sister, Iris Hugo, looks bewildered, asking if everything is really all right. The protagonist glances around, considering what to say, knowing she cannot reveal the truth. Aracelia's announcement is the only way to save her sister Iris's life. Aracelia carries a secret she cannot share with her family. She possesses prophetic dreams. This is the first vision she has experienced in 5 years. In the nightmare, she sees Iris trapped in an arranged marriage, sitting alone in a dark prison, awaiting execution. Aracelia rushes to her, apologizing for not arriving sooner. Her elder sister tells her not to worry and thanks her for coming. Aracelia reaches for her sister's trembling hand, eyes brimming with tears, and says she failed to free her. Iris insists it is not her fault. Aracelia shouts that Iris did nothing wrong and that her husband is the real villain, a man clearly unfit for any sensible plot. Her hands shake as she rattles the prison bars, demanding to know why her sister must suffer. Iris explains that the laws are to blame, for otherwise Lord Vandermeer would have inherited the duchy. Aracelia stares, realizing this refers to the scoundrel's younger brother. Iris adds that after marrying, she discovers her husband is embroiled in a succession battle with his sibling, while Lord Vandermeer, captain of the Red Hawk Knights, is far too busy with heroics to intervene. Before she can finish, her body convulses. Aracelia cries out, watching her sister spit blood. Iris asks one final favor: to tell their parents and youngest sibling she is sorry and to care for the family. A few days later, Iris is executed for being the wife of a traitor. In the dream, Aracelia receives the news, crumples the paper in her hands, and thinks it should have been her, the one forced to endure this fate. Returning to the present, Aracelia considers how she cannot reveal a dream as the reason for this marriage. Iris narrows her eyes and gasps, asking if Aracelia has been secretly meeting Lord Vandermeer. Aracelia, bewildered, insists that is not the case. She does not know his full name and has never seen his face. Her sister Iris remains stunned, questioning why Aracelia is marrying. Meanwhile, their mother is so overwhelmed that she instructs the butler to summon the family physician. Aracelia yells for the butler to halt. He mentions there is already an arranged marriage promised to the Vandermeer Duchy anyway, correct? Her parents spin around, demanding to know how she learned of that arrangement. The lady, beaming with delight, announces she will soon be meeting Lord Vandermeer, so she will be the one to proceed with that betrothal. After delivering her declaration, she waves her hand, informing her parents she is off. Her family remains so stunned that her mother nearly faints. Walking alone through the corridors, Aracelia realizes her parents already knew about the arrangement. Then again, even she would have found it difficult to propose such a match. She squeezes her eyes shut, acknowledging she still recalls the nightmare vividly. Her sister's wedding, where rain poured mercilessly, and Iris's hardened expression from the unwanted union. She seeds at the Vandermeer family for using an arranged marriage to determine their heirs, sacrificing her sister for their succession conflict. She flings open the library door. Approaching the table, she understands this marriage cannot be called off, and she cannot allow her sister to wed that scoundrel. She seizes the feather pen. In that case, only one option remains. She must simply marry before her sister does. She scribbles something down. That action will prevent Iris's death. Yet that alone proves insufficient. Their sin of causing her sister's miserable demise carries too heavy a weight to forgive. Therefore, she must marry the younger brother. She chuckles darkly. She will overturn the tides of their succession battle. She folds the paper, mentioning Lord Vandermeer, whose full name she admittedly does not even know. And honestly, she harbors no particular fondness for him either. But she will come see him soon. As night descends, the scene shifts to the Lord when they approach his gate. A man announces to the captain that an urgent letter has arrived and has been placed on his desk. The captain acknowledges he will examine it. A striking man with white hair retrieves the letter and freezes, astonished to see it bears Aracelia Hugo's name. He is Damien Vandermeer, captain of the Red Hawk Knights. He unseals the parchment, wondering why she would correspond with him. Let us observe what the lady writes. She informs him that it seems they will soon be married, so they should not defeat each other before the ceremony. She also possesses something important to discuss with him, so they ought to meet when both are available. For his reference, her schedule opens in 3 days. The young man recoils at the abrupt proposal, hurling the letter into the flames. He muses whether it is true that not a single sane individual exists among mages. He shuts his eyes, resolving that he wants nothing to do with her, ever. Not even a second after perusing the letter, he vows never to become entangled with her. However, Damien proves unable to halt her advance. Several days afterward, she awaits him with an expansive smile, offering greetings and reintroducing herself as Aracelia. She inquires whether he has injured his hand by any chance. She chuckles, explaining that because he forwarded no response, she hastened here concerned he might be wounded. The young man feels morose, contemplating what this woman's deal is. She is genuinely insane. The lady grins, pondering how dare he overlook her correspondence. The man's determination to never engage with her does not even persist for 3 days. Earlier, within the training grounds of the Red Hawk Knights, a striking youth with raven hair observes his soldiers clustered near the entrance and barks, demanding to know what they believe they are doing during practice hours. The troops startle, advising their leader that a noblewoman has arrived seeking him. He is astonished, questioning what they are discussing. He is Isaac, deputy commander of the Red Hawk Knights. Abruptly, a woman carrying a parasol strides inside, asking if he is the deputy commander. Splendid. She clarifies she has arrived to see Sir Vandermeer. She even dispatched a letter beforehand, so where might he be? Every soldier feels their pulse quicken, acknowledging her striking beauty, some trying not to look like they just swallowed their own hearts. The commander explains that Damien has not yet appeared and asks who she is, if he is not being overly presumptuous. The woman speaks, disclosing she is Aracelia Hugo. She announces with pride that she is a celebrated prodigy mage throughout the Empire. The boy reels in shock upon discovering she is a mage. Everyone begins whispering among themselves, speculating whether someone should hand her a fan for dramatic effect. The commander mentions he has heard of her. She is the eccentric from the Magic Tower. Another remarks that it is peculiar for a noble lady to arrive unannounced. Naturally, it must involve a mage. The man apologizes, stating her presence is disrupting exercises and requests she kindly leave. But before he can finish, the lady interrupts that he was napping while his subordinates manage everything. She smirks, questioning the others if their superior is perpetually this indolent, as though she expects a gold star for noticing. The young man glares at her, demanding she cease making disrespectful remarks about the commander. The lady laughs, asking if she has insulted him. Noting it is trivial compared to the inconvenience his superior caused her, it barely registers on the outrage scale. Everyone seethes silently when heavy footsteps thunder across the pavement and a man entering roars, demanding to know what this disturbance is. The young man freezes, then exclaims, "Commander!" Everyone bows, shouting that he has finally arrived. The lady pivots toward him, greeting him and presenting herself as Aracelia. Sweeping her hair behind her ear, she questions whether he has injured his hand by chance since he did not answer her letter, so she hurried here concerned he might be harmed. The man gazes down at her, informing her the weather is pleasant and he sustains no wounds. The lady queries why, if he is unharmed, he did not respond to her correspondence. He glares at her, then summons Isaac, strides past, and instructs him that since everyone remains unprepared for practice, they will complete 50 circuits around the field, because apparently running is the official answer to every problem. Isaac apologizes, confirming they will obey the command. Everyone immediately begins their punishment. Damien then requests the lady accompany him to his office for discussion. Aracelia follows, marking the beginning of the future couple's first encounter, tensions already high. She trails behind him, thinking what an arrogant man he is. The man pivots, sensing her thoughts. Arriving at the office, he grasps a teacup and apologizes for not responding, admitting he perused her letter but was too occupied to reply. The lady chuckles, noting that some people have poor memories. He says if this is her only reason for visiting, she may leave, as he has no intention of marrying her. Aracelia counters, explaining their families share an arranged marriage pact. He declares this cannot be, hearing it for the first time. She raises a finger, explaining she only discovered it recently, but the promise obligates them to wed. The young man refuses. The lady insists this is not something he can simply reject and asks why he opposes it so strongly. She lists her strengths: first-class honors for subjugating a monster horde last winter, her beauty, and standing as a leading candidate for Magic Tower Master. More importantly, he wants to push aside his brother and claim the dukedom. The man whirls, surprised she knows that. The lady offers her help. He accuses her of taking credit for the knight's efforts during the monster campaign last year. Aracelia insists she saved his life and was not a thief. He says she only intervened when victory seemed assured. Aracelia pounds the table, asking whether knights understand gratitude. The man smirks, saying saving a maid who cannot control her temper is amusing. The confrontation is about to turn into a duel when a young woman bursts in, pleading for Aracelia to calm down. She grips her mistress's arm, reminding her she promised to stop hitting people. She is Aracelia's maid, Audrey. Aracelia says the knight must learn a lesson for not recognizing his savior. Audrey suggests they can handle it later. Damien tells the maid not to interfere, which Aracelia rejects, saying he should not overstep either. Snatching. Her umbrella, she warns he will regret it. The man stays calm, saying she should mind her own matters and needs no help. Aracelia tells him he will need her because his succession to the dukedom depends on this arranged marriage. She explains that the grandson who weds a Hugo granddaughter inherits title and fortune, and he may check with the emperor if he doubts it. She steps back, saying she has told him everything necessary, and gestures for Audrey to leave, leaving him to think. Aracelia continues to vent her fury, shouting at Audrey to examine this reply. He merely supplies her with the time and location, as though issuing commands to a subordinate. He arrives an entire week late, yet exhibits no trace of remorse. The maid pleads with her mistress to please settle down, but Aracelia remains agitated, insisting no, but seriously, does Audrey know what proves more infuriating? He cites his affiliation with the Knights rather than his noble lineage. Who in the Empire cares that he belongs to the Red Hawk Knights? Aracelia pulled off a monumental provocation disguised as a proposal. She smirks, acknowledging that if not for her maid's presence, she would have thoroughly unleashed her mind upon him. Afterward, she arrives home with her heart still racing. Within the garden, she encounters her elder sister. Iris regards her curiously, questioning what special occasion prompts her to come out and greet her. Iris smiles gently, explaining it is merely behind a young boy who tugs at her dress, sobbing profusely against her. He is Adrian, heir of the Hugo Marquise family. Aracelia cannot suppress her laughter at his tear-streaked countenance. She grins, exclaiming that he looks genuinely ridiculous. The boy, overhearing this, intensifies his weeping while Iris grasps Aracelia's cheeks, asking if she was not instructed to stop teasing the youngest. Aracelia continues chuckling, then approaches her brother, inquiring why he cries and requesting he share his troubles. The boy persists in his sobbing, revealing he heard she is getting married. He elaborates that mother claimed when people marry, they depart from home, and he dislikes that prospect. He pleads with his sister, asking if she can simply refrain from marrying. Aracelia smiles tenderly, gazing at him with affection. She admits she cannot. She must proceed. She emphasizes she does not say this to provoke him, but speaks sincerely. Meanwhile, Iris observes her, a shadow crossing her features. Aracelia further reassures her younger brother that merely because she weds does not signify she abandons him. Aracelia pats his head, assuring she will forever remain his second big sister regardless of circumstances. Iris confirms to the boy that this is correct, guaranteeing the three of them will stay together until the end. Aracelia further emphasizes that even if she changes her surname after marriage, her family remains unchanged. Her brother nods in agreement, but suddenly bursts out shouting that, still, he does not want his sister to wed, and he dislikes her future husband already. Aracelia smiles, pointing out he has never met the man, so how can he harbor such dislike? And even if it were not him, she would have to marry someone he would hate even more. Iris startles, questioning what she means by someone he would hate even more. She presses Aracelia further, asking if she is genuinely pursuing this because of a political alliance. Aracelia panics, shaking her head in denial, insisting that is not the case. Suddenly, Iris kneels down, embracing her. She confesses she knows Aracelia dreams of becoming Magic Tower Master, so she should not shackle herself with a political marriage and should instead pursue what she truly desires. Aracelia feels tears threatening to spill. Iris declares she supports her completely. But Aracelia cannot suppress the vision of her sister's tragic fate flashing through her mind. Her eyes glaze over momentarily, then she straightens, informing Iris she does not wish to marry Lord Vandermeer merely for political reasons. Iris gazes at her with confusion, questioning why then. Aracelia turns toward both siblings, declaring she simply genuinely likes him. Iris counters that she recognizes a lie when she hears one, and Aracelia has never liked anyone without reason. Aracelia attempts to convince them it is genuine. Honestly, she admires his appearance. Both siblings recoil in shock, Iris questioning if she is selecting a spouse solely for looks. Adrian shouts that this behavior is completely unlike her. Aracelia retorts, "What? She has acquired everything else independently, so does she not deserve to choose someone based on appearance?" Iris points accusingly, reminding her she constantly claims her own face is superior. So why would she care about another's? Aracelia settles down, informing her siblings proudly that this situation differs because she is entering a love match with Sir Vandermeer. Iris remains perplexed, noting she previously admitted never meeting or seeing him, so how can she possibly love him? Aracelia panics internally as her fabrication threatens to unravel. She then rises, announcing he mentioned dispatching a letter, so she must hurry and await its arrival. She dashes away while young Adrian questions Iris whether their sister is genuinely marrying. Iris tells the boy that well. Who can say for certain? Meanwhile, Aracelia halts, reflecting that she has exhausted all available options. She clenches her jaw in frustration, recognizing the next move belongs to that insufferable man he simply needs to consent already. She must act before Iris grows more suspicious, so she requires him to respond promptly. Yet once again, that man neglects to reply for an entire week. A full week passes since Damien ignored her correspondence. He now sits in his office, exhaustion etching his features. He contemplates whether that mage spoke truthfully. His eyes open, questioning what on earth his grandfather was thinking, leaving such a will. He acknowledges the family already desperately wishes to erase him anyway. He remains the sole individual unaware of this testament. After all, the rest of the dukedom conspired together, including his penniless half-brother Oscar, who received everything only to hand it back to Vandermeer. He must prevent that outcome. Most significantly, he recalls the lady's words about him eagerly pushing aside his brother to claim the dukedom. He still puzzles over that mage. He then seizes the parchment, recognizing this marriage constitutes an imperial decree. He scribbles something down, contemplating that within this empire, no one can defy such mandates. In other words, if he weds that woman, he secures everything. Damien walks to his desk and writes something down. He folds the paper, thinking that at least she doesn't seem completely crazy. Meanwhile, Aracelia gets the letter from her maid. Audrey closes the door, wondering if her lady has been secretly dating the Lord all this time. She thinks about how her little troublemaker has finally grown up. But suddenly, she gets shocked hearing her lady make a strange, angry noise. Aracelia yells the Duke's name, scaring the maid. Audrey asks what is wrong now. Aracelia hands the letter back to her, and when Audrey looks at it, she feels confused reading that the man asks Aracelia to come alone because he wants to meet her at 3 tomorrow afternoon at Foren Coffee House on 7th Avenue, and they should talk more about what they discussed at his office last time. Even the maid feels puzzled while Aracelia keeps yelling, telling Audrey to see how he gives orders. He is a whole week late and still has no shame. Audrey tries to calm her down, but Aracelia is so angry that she says seriously. Audrey should know what is more annoying. He mentions his knight position instead of his family name. Who in the Empire cares that he belongs to the Red Hawk Knights? Even Audrey finds this strange because nobles usually say their family name, and this feels unusual. Aracelia shouts in anger, saying it is not just unusual, it is arrogant. She spins around toward her desk and writes something down. She yells that they will see who wins and tells Audrey to send this new letter to him. Audrey takes the letter and reads it out loud. She freaks out, her face going pale because in the letter, Aracelia tells him to meet at 5 instead, calling him Lord Vandermeer. These two act like little kids as they keep fighting. After that, Audrey leaves. Aracelia looks out the window, thinking he is so arrogant, while he probably thinks she is a crazy mage. And after she gets what she wants, she plans to file for divorce right away. Now it is the day of the ball. As Aracelia prepares herself, her sister Iris enters, asking if she truly plans to announce her marriage today. Aracelia looks determined, telling her that, of course, she intends to have every newspaper publish her love story tomorrow. Iris sighs, mentioning that announcing a marriage at the Crown Prince's party seems bold. She asks if His Highness the Crown Prince has approved this. Aracelia tells her that he said it is completely fine. She feels happy remembering that he is her best friend after all. Frederick, the Crown Prince and second son of the Emperor, became friends with Aracelia during their academy days. He possesses not only outstanding swordsmanship skills, but also a gentle personality and brilliant eloquence. Frederick stands as the ideal candidate for the next emperor, surpassing even the first prince in popularity. Just as Audrey finishes styling Aracelia's hair, she sighs softly. Aracelia turns toward her, asking what troubles her. The maid admits she worries about Sir Vandermeer because he is so popular. Aracelia stops her from continuing with the brushing and demands to know why that matters. Iris chimes in, explaining that he represents every young lady's dream. Not only is he handsome enough for even Aracelia to acknowledge, but he also studied alone abroad and returned as the youngest swordmaster in the Empire. Everyone calls him unapproachable, yet everyone admires him nonetheless. By marrying him, Aracelia will definitely make enemies among high society. Aracelia ponders this information. Iris grows irritated, feeling fired up as she recognizes the expression on her sister's face, the same one Aracelia wears when she feels absolutely uninterested. Suddenly, Iris grasps Aracelia's hand, asking her to promise her older sister that she will not cause any trouble at the ball beyond the marriage announcement. Aracelia, surprised by the request, cheerfully agrees. The moment she hears Aracelia's confident reply, Iris senses that her sister will absolutely stir up even bigger trouble. And looking at Aracelia's disinterested expression, she realizes there is no way her little sister has ever actually listened to her. The scene shifts to the Imperial Palace of the Celtron Empire. The palace gleams splendidly, decorated throughout for tonight's grand ball. Ladies drift about, savoring refreshments and chatting among themselves, when suddenly the arrival of Lady Aracelia and Lady Iris is announced. Every head turns toward them as Aracelia surveys the crowd, realizing just how many people have gathered. She feels determined, acknowledging that the ball at the Imperial Palace truly operates on an entirely different level. Nearby ladies exchange confused whispers, noting how unusual it is for the Hugo sisters to arrive together and remarking that Lady Aracelia has not shown her face in society for quite some time. Aracelia catches their murmurs, recognizing the gossip has already begun. A blonde young woman bets that the Hugo sister will once again monopolize every dance request tonight. A curly-haired companion counters that one never knows, insisting not everyone here is a fool who only cares about pretty faces. Aracelia feels somewhat isolated amid such a vast gathering when suddenly she begins chuckling, realizing this is exactly what she needs. Just like that, gossip about her spreads like wildfire through the hall. Guests stare at her strange behavior, and the gossiping ladies decide to move away. Her sister tries to calm her, then points ahead, telling Aracelia to look up. A striking man with white hair stands before them, so handsome that every young woman present seems smitten. It is Lord Vandermeer. Aracelia gazes at him with confusion while onlookers marvel, noting he resembles a walking statue brought to life. He approaches the ladies and stops, offering a polite good evening. Aracelia curtsies, returning his greeting. Every girl in the vicinity gapes in shock, wondering what just happened. How could he speak to her? And why can they hardly believe their eyes? What in the world is the relationship between these two? Damien looks at Aracelia, mentioning he has been awaiting the marriage announcement. She tells him she is pleased to see him. He regards her silently, realizing that because of her scheme for revenge, everyone's jaws drop as though witnessing something unprecedented. Whispers spread rapidly, questioning whether they are lovers, whether Lord Vandermeer and Lady Aracelia are actually dating. Crowds gather around them, consumed with curiosity about their connection. Damien notices that everyone's attention now focuses entirely on them. Guests continue murmuring that he is a knight and she is a mage, love that transcends even that divide. Aracelia's eyes widen, recognizing the moment has arrived. She extends her hand toward him, asking if he would care to dance. Every mouth falls open in astonishment. Onlookers stare at him while the Duke himself appears shocked. Damien grinds his teeth in frustration, wondering what she thinks she is doing. Has she forgotten the second condition he said about no unnecessary physical contact? Aracelia chuckles inwardly, contemplating how he can possibly refuse her this time, because as a gentleman, he supposedly cannot decline. Spectators remain stunned, finding it extraordinary that Lady Aracelia is asking him for a dance. He clenches his jaw in frustration with no choice but to accept her hand, informing her that in that case, he will escort her to the hall. Observers watch them together, their faces flushing as they realize the pair truly seems to be dating. And so Aracelia and Damien, who have perfectly deceived everyone with their convincing performance, finally reach their ultimate destination. Yet together, they both feel like vomiting. They despise each other intensely. Now, as they dance surrounded by other couples, he looks at her, asking when she plans to make the marriage announcement. She tells him she will do it after this song concludes. He panics, questioning in anger whether she desperately wants revenge on him. He smiles tightly, remarking how unfortunate, but suggests she fix her expression because anyone observing will think he is picking a fight. He retorts that his sour expression stems from more than just that reason. She asks him then why. He notes he is not even touching her back properly. He admits he simply does not enjoy dancing. Suddenly, a servant steps forward, announcing that by order of His Highness, the Crown Prince, Lady Aracelia is now to make an important declaration. Every guest turns toward her in shock. Both stand together on the stage. Damien surveys the crowd, recognizing the time has finally come to announce their marriage. Aracelia proclaims with excitement that she will wed none other than Lord Damien Vandermeer. She mentions invitations will arrive soon and expresses hope to see everyone at her wedding. The entire hall reverberates with stunned exclamations as guests spill wine from their glasses, voices echoing with disbelief. Damien stares in shock, realizing she announced it so abruptly without any context whatsoever. He questions whether she is genuinely insane. Aracelia tells the guests she has said what she needed to say, so everyone please return to enjoying the party. Suddenly, the Crown Prince appears. Aracelia looks at him, calling his name. He breathes heavily, demanding she explain in detail because he has no idea what she is talking about. He is Frederick, the second prince of the Empire. Our Crown Prince's tragic love story begins 7 years ago. A boy walked down the corridor feeling uneasy, worried that at this rate he would be late. Suddenly, he saw a girl. Looking at her, he called out and asked if she knew which building held the ceremony. The girl pointed to the opposite structure, telling him it was over there. The boy experienced love at first sight with the young lady. It was Frederick who fell for Aracelia at that moment. Now, back in the present, our protagonist stands at a ball and makes a startling announcement. She declares she is getting married to Sir Frederick, promising to send invitations soon and asking everyone to attend. One boy in the crowd goes pale with shock. It becomes painfully clear that Frederick had been trapped in a tragic one-sided love all these years. The crown prince steps forward, demanding she explain this marriage in detail. Panic creeps into his voice as he mentions she never once told him about any wedding. Everyone turns toward the crown prince and bows in respect. He stands amid the crowd, suddenly realizing too many eyes are watching. Mortified by his disgraceful outburst, he collects himself just as Aracelia calls to him, requesting they move elsewhere to talk. They retreat to the garden, where Aracelia smiles and remarks how unlike Frederick it is to show weakness, since he always insisted on projecting the image of a perfect crown prince. Frederick remains troubled. Confessing her sudden marriage announcement caught him off guard. He questions whether she is truly marrying Damien, noting that Damien is a knight while she is a mage. Aracelia confirms it, wondering why that should matter. The prince reminds her she was originally against marriage, but she admits a certain boy changed her mind. Blesh then asks if she recalls the promise they made in the library as academy freshmen. The scene shifts to the past, where young Frederick proposed that if they both remained unmarried by 40, they should marry each other. Now standing before her, he asks if she remembers that vow. Aracelia panics, exclaiming that it was 7 years ago when they were freshmen. Frederick looks stunned, insisting she definitely agreed. Aracelia regards him with confusion, explaining he was joking, so she simply played along. How could that ever have been serious? The boy hesitates, his voice wavering as he asks how she could announce her marriage without even a hint, questioning if she understands how deeply he cares. Guilt softens her features as she acknowledges his concern, explaining she values their friendship immensely and apologizes for not telling him sooner. She emphasizes this decision came after careful thought, so she simply asks him to respect her choice. Confusion clouds his face before a bitter laugh escapes him at the word respect. Without another word, he turns, mutters an apology, and walks away. Aracelia watches him go, puzzled by his intense reaction. Unbeknownst to her, Damien has been listening from behind the wall. By morning, the Imperial Ball's dramatic revelations fill every headline, shocking the Empire with news of an upcoming union between a mage and a knight, sparking speculation about potential turmoil. The engagement announcement spreads quickly, eventually reaching Marquis Hugo's estate. Damien turns to Aracelia, asking if she feels ready. She admits she does not. He stares incredulously, questioning her sanity since she only notified him of the parental meeting via letter the previous night. Her eyes sparkle as she asks if sooner isn't better. He sighs, requesting guidance on navigating this encounter with her family. After a pause, she mentions one thing. She grins teasingly, asking if he is prepared to take away their beloved second daughter. The moment they approach, her father appears, greeting Sir Damien with the fierce intensity of a predator eyeing its prey. Damien stiffens, recognizing the lethal gaze fixed upon him. Thankfully, her mother offers warmth, expressing gratitude for his presence. He bows politely, expressing his honor at meeting them. Suddenly, her youngest brother interjects protectively, opposing the union. Trembling, he insists Damien cannot take his sister away. Iris interjects, calling his name. Undeterred, the boy continues protesting that their sister is too young, declaring that even the youngest swordmaster, known as the god of monster subjugation, cannot simply take her. Lily blinks at her brother, astonished by his knowledge. Damien kneels to the boy's level and states firmly that he will marry Lady Hugo, even with a blade at his throat. He leans closer, whispering to the little boy, asking if he would still try to stop him. The boy trembles, stomps his feet, then bursts into tears and jumps toward his mother. Even Aracelia's father looks rattled. Aracelia calls out in shock. He turns and asks if she wasn't the one who told him to prepare to take away their second daughter. She sighs, saying she never meant for him to demonstrate that on an 11-year-old. Now the whole group gathers in the dining room. Aracelia's father raises his cup and asks directly why he wants to marry their daughter, since it is clearly not for political reasons. Their second daughter is quite extraordinary after all. Damien agrees that Lady Aracelia is indeed remarkable, and that is exactly why he likes her. He figured marriage to her would mean no dull moments. Aracelia's mother questions if he would marry for such a trivial reason, and what will he do if married life becomes stifling? Damien suggests they will discuss things and adjust as they go along. Aracelia's mother sets down her fork firmly. Marriage is the most important decision in life. she says, equivalent to being prepared for a lifetime together. She looks at both her daughter and Damien and asks if they are truly prepared for that. Damien pales as the word lifetime registers. Even he looks shaken. Both their expressions turn blank, a heavy silence settling over the room. Aracelia's mother snaps that, if they are uncertain, they should not marry. Damien stammers that is not it. He simply realized the future he imagined is closer than expected. Aracelia interjects, confirming they have discussed everything at length. This marriage means everything to them, which is why they are proceeding. Her mother holds up a hand, asking to say one more thing. She warns Damien not to expect her daughter to become a dutiful wife in the traditional sense, as Aracelia aspires to become Tower Master. It would be wiser to end things now than to expect the impossible. Damien closes his eyes briefly, then states he is not so lacking that he requires his wife's support to stand. Whatever Lady Aracelia pursues after marriage, he will not interfere. He will live his life, and she will live hers. Aracelia's mother stares, stunned. She asks if he would truly not stop her from working at the magic tower. Damien replies he holds no right to clip her wings. That is entirely Lady Aracelia's choice. The family exchanges glances, stunned. Even the magicians of the tower oppose women in such roles, and knights despise the idea entirely. Yet here sits a knight saying otherwise. Her parents chuckle, never imagining a knight could be so open-minded. Aracelia gives Damien a thumbs up. Her father wipes his eye, remarking no man could match his second daughter quite like this one. Aracelia scoffs, telling him not to exaggerate, but suggests instead of worrying about their marriage, they should help make it happen. Damien agrees, adding the Marquess and Marchioness need not fret, nor should Lady Hugo and the young lord. The tearful younger brother rubs his eyes and whines that he actually has one question. Damien asks what it is. The boy's face turns red as he asks if Lord Damien is the affectionate type. His sister chokes on her tea, and even Damien's expression darkens. The boy explains that his sister always said she likes men who are sweet and full of charm, and if a man isn't charming, she isn't interested. He trembles slightly as he pleads with Damien to please show his sister lots of affection, because he is very interested in her. Damien bursts out laughing. The boy looks at him, asking him not to laugh. Damien says he cannot help it. It is too funny. And thus, the little brother's final strike brings this formal meeting to a warm, cheerful end. Everyone comes outside to say goodbye to Damien when Aracelia's father stops him. As Damien turns toward him, the man extends his hand and asks the young man to take care of his daughter. He always hoped Aracelia would remain safely within the shade of his protection, free to pursue her dreams and accomplish her goals. But perhaps children were never meant to live exactly as their parents wish. So he asks only this: please hold fast to the words he said at dinner about granting her freedom. Damien shakes his hand and tells the man not to worry, because he truly meant it. The father chuckles and thanks him. Aracelia calls Damien from behind, asking to escort him to his carriage. Damien seeks permission from the Lord, and now they walk together. The little brother calls out to his sister, asking her to come back soon. Aracelia turns toward him, smiles, and tells him yes, she will, asking him to go inside now. She walks ahead when Damien calls out to her, mentioning that she must have been raised well. Aracelia looks confused. Damien turns toward her and says she is not just loved, but deeply, abundantly loved. He sighs, noting that is likely why she carries herself with such confidence. Aracelia chuckles, telling him that is not the case since it is simply her personality. But yes, knowing her family has her back does help her walk even taller. She asks why he wants to know. Damien looks at her, remembering the past when his other brother was always loved by others while he was left alone, in the dark. Standing with her now, he tells her he was merely curious about the source of her rather eccentric charm. Aracelia glares at him and asks if he has lost his mind, questioning her about something like that. Just as they reach the door, Aracelia mentions they should also schedule a formal meeting with the ducal family. Damien tells her news of their engagement has already reached them and caused quite a stir, and he is certain they will be arriving in the capital soon. Aracelia tilts her head in agreement and suggests she will send a letter when the time comes. He steps toward the carriage. She asks if there is anything else she should prepare or be cautious of. Damien tells her to simply brace herself to welcome the ever-annoying second son, who will rise again soon. He glances at her before leaving. Aracelia stands there confused, wondering about this ever-annoying second son she apparently needs to prepare herself for. Meanwhile, in the Vandermeer dukedom, a lady shouts while smashing crockery against the floor, calling someone a little brat. The maids tremble in terror as she continues ranting about how someone stole her son's rightful place. Who do they think they are, securing such connections? She grieves that it is unforgivable, all of it. She demands her maids prepare the carriage immediately, declaring it is time she paid a visit to that second son of hers. The lady is Sophie, Damien's stepmother. Some days later, Aracelia stands in Damien's estate with her umbrella, mentally preparing for the formal meeting with the ducal family. A butler opens the door and asks her to follow him. The moment she steps inside, she hears someone shrieking that Lord Damien is a fool. A woman in blue nearly crashes into her, and Aracelia barely dodges. The lady whirls around, eyes wet with tears, and accuses Aracelia of bumping into her on purpose. This is Nora White, eldest daughter of the House of White. Aracelia blinks at her, genuinely puzzled. From her perspective, she could barely see her, being rather short and all. Nora's face flushes with rage, demanding to know if she just says everything she thinks. She vows never to forgive her, claiming Aracelia always steals the men she fancies and now humiliates her like this. Aracelia is baffled, having no idea who this person is or what she is talking about. Perhaps the lady confused her with someone who actually pays attention to her. Damien walks out, asking Lady White what she is still lurking about. Aracelia suddenly remembers the House of White. Her father mentioned they once fought her family over a moonstone mine and lost spectacularly. They have apparently held a grudge ever since. Nora sprints toward Damien in tears, but he holds up a hand, warning her that if she comes any closer, he will take legal action. She halts immediately, shrieking about how heartless he is. Aracelia notes with amusement that at least she knows how to follow instructions. Nora scoffs, asking if he truly does not know how much she loved him. Damien looks genuinely confused, asking if she means her one-sided infatuation. He turns to the butler and orders Nora escorted out. He then beckons Aracelia to follow him. Nora shouts after her, demanding she wait. Aracelia glances back and tells her to feast her eyes well upon her beauty. Nora throws a tantrum, promising she will make her pay. Aracelia wonders how on earth Nora got in here to cause such chaos. Damien explains she just showed up uninvited and started acting unhinged. Aracelia sighs, noting that at least she caused a scene before his family arrived, so the real entertainment is still to come. Damien's expression turns dark and he tells her that actually, they have arrived already. Aracelia looks at him in confusion, questioning if they did not catch any of that scene. Damien informs her they narrowly avoided that disaster. He takes a deep breath and starts walking ahead. Aracelia mentions that is a relief, so they should head inside and resolve this properly. Damien asks her to stop. He warns that the ducal family will do anything to stop this marriage. He turns toward her and explains they will do whatever it takes to ensure she receives nothing from them. He asks if she is certain she wants to proceed. Aracelia looks at him blankly and asks what he expects her to do now, questioning if he is suggesting she call it off. Damien sputters in frustration, insisting that is not what he meant. Aracelia smiles and tells him not to worry about her, but to worry about himself instead. She intends to do whatever it takes. She warns him to be prepared to handle her. She knocks and enters, practically sparkling, with a wide smile plastered across her face. She announces what a pleasure it is to meet them, introducing herself as the daughter of Marquis Hugo. She thanks them graciously for the invitation, calling it an honor. The room could not be more tense. A man stands near the window while a woman sips her tea, unimpressed. The man turns and asks if she is the one. Marrying Damien. Damien bows and confirms she is. This is Alex, Damien's father. The woman speaks up, questioning why someone so devoted to being single would suddenly insist on marriage. She smirks, asking if she is approaching her son with base intentions, as plenty of women have come forward with impure motives. She must understand how difficult it is not to question her true purpose. Damien looks shocked, hearing his mother accuse her of such degrading intentions. Aracelia takes it lightly, telling the lady she completely understands and not to worry, She is marrying him for one reason only: his face. As anyone can see, it is a rare treasure to behold, which is precisely why she has chosen not to let this chance slip away. She personally guarantees it is the finest face she has ever collected. The lady looks stunned, then shouts that marriage is not a frivolous matter and she ought to take it more seriously. Aracelia insists she has never been more serious. Wealth, beauty, talent, a noble title, she possesses it all, but above all else, appearance matters most. Forget what lies within. Handsomeness and elegance are what truly count. Her shameless declaration of beauty worship leaves everyone staring, silently concluding she might be insane. The Vandermeer family sits utterly flabbergasted. Damien's mother snaps, slamming the table, shouting that she still finds the lady unsuitable for her son. He is a knight, and she is a mage, after all. Aracelia looks momentarily caught off guard, noting that this opposition is quite inconvenient. The lady smirks, wondering if her tactic is working. Aracelia smiles warmly and tells the lady she carries a blessing within her. This only shocks Damien's parents further. The lady shouts, "What if?" Aracelia turns toward Damien, giving him a side eye, and mentions that with her burning passion for beauty, perhaps her son shall become the very first in her glorious collection of beauties. She has always wanted to start a collection, and his face is the perfect centerpiece. The lady realizes she underestimated her. She assumed the engagement would crumble once her pride was wounded, but looking at Aracelia now, she understands this is no ordinary lunatic. Thus, the formal meeting is dominated entirely by Aracelia's relentless charm offensive. She waves goodbye to the parents, announcing she shall take her leave. The Vandermeer Duke and Duchess have lost all will to resist. Before leaving, Aracelia turns to the Duke and smiles, telling him only the wedding remains now. He smiles back, agreeing. She leaves, telling him until they meet again. As Damien walks her out, his mother appears from behind, calling out to question if he truly believes he can steal what belongs to Oscar. She grinds her teeth, demanding to know why he brought home such a wild creature, claiming he has made a mockery of the ducal house. Damien glances at her and walks past without responding. She shouts, asking if he is smiling, warning him not to get arrogant. When he continues ignoring her, she screams that in the end, he is nothing but a failure. Damien stops and looks at her. He tells her that may be so for now, but perhaps if he tries hard enough, he too shall be a victor someday, just as her grace once was by seizing what belonged to another. He walks away, asking her to excuse him. The lady trembles, clenching her fists in anger. She realizes he is his mother's son through and through, so prideful, so dignified to the end. She swears under her breath, telling him to do whatever he wants, and let them see who stands smiling in triumph at the end. Following the formal meeting between the younger pair, the Duke and Duchess of Vandermeer request a private audience with the Hugo couple. The Vandermeer family attempts to sway them with bribes, suggesting that if they dissolve this union, they will be repaid several times over. They offer whatever they desire, starting with commercial backing, promising to make it happen. The Duke proposes the Marquis consider his eldest, Oscar, instead of the second son. The Marquis stands firm, declaring that the one who suits his daughter best is not Oscar, but Damien. Lady Vandermeer forces a smile, inquiring if they are proposing a match between their eldest son, Oscar, and their eldest daughter, Lady Iris. She mentions that Damien has been entangled in considerable trouble since his youth, which is precisely why they sent him abroad to study in another country. She questions whether they are truly comfortable with this arrangement. Lady Hugo, having reached her limit, states calmly that it is quite all right. She elaborates that they intend to support their child in whatever direction she chooses, which is why they will not withdraw from this marriage under any circumstances. Lady Vandermeer turns toward her husband, silently questioning whether they must prevent this union at all costs. Suddenly, someone requests permission to enter the room. A servant arrives, announcing that a letter has just arrived from the Imperial Palace. The Vandermeer family appears stunned by this development. The Marquis instructs the man to bring it forward. Lady Hugo notes their fortune that the letter arrived while the Vandermeer family was still present. She explains that since this political marriage is also by order of His Majesty the Emperor, she promptly reported the situation to him. She informed him they would honor both the will left behind by the late Duke Vandermeer and the promise made to His Majesty. The butler enters, announcing that these letters are addressed to Duke Vandermeer and Marquis Hugo respectively, requesting they accept them. The Vandermeer family sits utterly stunned. Later, as they depart in their carriage, Lady Vandermeer panics, asking her husband what course of action remains. She realizes they knew the Hugos had visited the palace, but to report the matter to His Majesty already? What if Damien truly ends up becoming the heir at this rate? The Duke remains silent, contemplating the possibility of Damien becoming heir. The son he shipped off like unwanted cargo might just sail back as captain of the ship. His mind drifts to the day he sent his son to the port, asking if he had any final words. Before departing, Damien told his father he is a coward who hides behind women. Returning to the present, the Duke realizes he cannot allow Damien to become the heir under any circumstances. He calls out to his wife, instructing her to provoke Lady Hugo slightly when they meet tomorrow, assuring her he will handle the rest personally. Meanwhile, within the Magic Tower, Aracelia's subordinates are astonished to learn she is getting married. They continue questioning whether it is truly happening. Aracelia confirms it is correct, explaining the formal meeting is complete and the wedding is scheduled for next month. They all exclaim in shock, questioning how it can proceed so rapidly. One green-haired girl inquires if she will now resign from the Magic Tower, noting that all other female mages quietly retreat once they wed. Aracelia smiles, asking what she is talking about and why she would abandon the tower, insisting it is merely a marriage. As she has stated countless times, she intends to become Tower Master, so they should cease worrying and concentrate on their floating stones research. Sally's eyes light up with excitement as she agrees enthusiastically. Suddenly, a knock interrupts them. Sally grants permission to enter. The door opens and a man inquires about Aracelia's presence. Sally rises in shock, addressing him as Tower Master. Even Aracelia appears startled, standing quickly and asking what brought him all the way here. This is Tower Master Philip. He laughs, mentioning he read in the newspaper about her upcoming marriage and decided she should tell him something important in person. Aracelia chuckles awkwardly, admitting she's been occupied and apologizes for not informing him sooner. Both proceed to the Tower Master's study, where Aracelia sits across from the elderly man. Philip remarks that initially he thought she had completely lost her senses. He jokes that he is the one old enough to be senile, not her. Aracelia chuckles at this. He reminisces how it seems like yesterday when she barged into his lab, bold and fearless, declaring her decision to never marry and demanding he make her Tower Master instead. At that time, Philip refused, instructing her to first graduate from the academy. Aracelia confesses honestly to the old man that it is not a genuine marriage. She explains it is a mutual arrangement. Once each obtains what they seek, they will separate. The old man wonders if marriage contracts now come with expiration dates like milk. Philip looks stunned, asking what exactly she hopes to gain from that night. He further questions if she remembers the case involving a mage who married a knight. Aracelia looks at him curiously, asking if he is referring to the Litterson incident. The Litterson incident involved a sword master and commander of the Imperial Knights who was murdered by his wife, a mage in a calculated move where she approached him with intent to kill, a scandal that once shook the entire nation. Philip laughs, telling her that people are not calling her the reincarnation of that mage for nothing. Aracelia smashes the table in shock, shouting who these people are, betting they have never said a word in front of her. The old man sets his tea down, acknowledging it is true and expressing his concern. After that incident, female mages faced harsh scrutiny, both inside the tower and outside it, openly criticized, so he has reason to ask if what she hopes to gain from that night truly outweighs her future. Aracelia looks at her master in confusion, remembering the dream and her sister's laughing face. She clenches her fist, affirming that, yes, it is worth more than her future, which is why she must proceed with this marriage no matter what. The old man smiles, telling her that if that is how she feels, he will support her, but he wonders if something has happened to Prince Frederick. Aracelia freezes, startled. The old master mentions that his regular letters to the tower have suddenly stopped, which makes him curious. Aracelia panics, realizing she completely forgot about Frederick entirely. Her track record as a friend is so poor it should be registered as a historical artifact. She sends a letter to the Imperial Palace, hoping to understand why he is angry and asking him to get over it. She does not have many friends as it is, and she does not want to lose him too simply because she is getting married. If she did something wrong, she apologizes, but honestly, she feels like he is sulking for no reason. On the other hand, as the Crown Prince receives the letter, he smiles warmly, recognizing it as distinctly Aracelia's style. But seriously, he does not understand when Aracelia started a secret relationship with a knight, and now she is even marrying him. She never does anything unless it benefits her, and this is strange. Something is definitely amiss. He orders his men to investigate Sir Damien thoroughly, everything from head to toe, and assign someone to shadow Aracelia, reporting back on her movements. His butler confirms he will handle it. He places the letter on the table, silently apologizing to Aracelia, but he will have to delay his reply because he still cannot accept this marriage. Sophie finds herself amused by her husband's words, each one striking directly at her heart. She marvels at how impossibly handsome he appears in this moment and eagerly agrees to his scheme, promising to thoroughly provoke Lady Hugo beyond reason. Meanwhile, in Damien's mansion, both he and Aracelia await when Sophie finally makes her entrance. Damien regards her coolly, remarking that she is late and if she summons someone, she should arrive on time. The lady looks startled, questioning why Aracelia is present. She clarifies that she invited Damien specifically. Damien smiles pleasantly, noting she never specified he had to come alone. Sophie grows irritated, insisting it was obviously meant to be just her and Lady Hugo. Damien informs her that both he and Aracelia have busy schedules, so today marks the last time she summons them before the wedding. Sophie raises her voice, accusing him of knowing exactly how to wound his mother with such words. Damien regards her steadily, questioning whether he truly does, adding that he is merely exhausted from only being treated as a son when convenient. Sophie grinds her teeth in frustration, but before she can respond, Aracelia interjects, asking directly what reason prompted today's summons. Sophie calls for a maid, who appears carrying a booklet and hands it to Aracelia, instructing her to read through it. Aracelia opens it and realizes it contains a dowry list featuring extremely expensive jewelry, dresses, an outrageous amount of money, and even a lavish new house in the capital. Her jaw drops as she examines the demands. She exclaims in outrage, questioning whether the lady's expectations are excessive and specifically why a new house in the capital is necessary. Sophie smiles smoothly, explaining they plan to move into the mansion where Damien will reside after marriage, adding that the property originally belonged to their family, so compensation is only fair. Aracelia looks at her with concern, suggesting it might be better to find a reasonable compromise together. Damien, however, reaches for the list, asking Aracelia to hand it over. Sophie warns him confidently that no matter what he says, there will be no compromise. Damien scans through the document, then declares they will cut it in half, slamming the papers onto the table. Sophie's eyes bulge in disbelief as she sputters that she just stated there would be no compromise. Her words trail off as Damien calmly informs her he will be meeting with His Majesty soon. Damien points out that proceeding with these conditions will inevitably create conflict between both families, then poses the question of how to resolve such a situation wisely, answering that the solution lies in finding someone capable of convincing all parties simultaneously and requesting their mediation. Sophie looks alarmed, asking if he is threatening her at this moment. Damien responds calmly that he would never dare. He is merely presenting her with a choice about whether to escalate the matter further. Sophie glares at him, finding no viable counter, then turns toward Aracelia, suggesting that after the wedding, Lady Aracelia can come reside with them at the Vendemere estate. Aracelia politely declines, explaining that she works at the Mage Tower, making that arrangement impossible. Sophie raises her voice, demanding to know what she is saying, insisting that after marriage, it is only natural to resign from the Mage Tower. Aracelia states firmly that she has no intention of doing so. Sophie questions who will support Damien then, who will manage the household, adding that if this continues, she will have no choice but to oppose the marriage once more. Aracelia responds that she is not marrying to become her son's support system. Sophie looks stunned, demanding to know what kind of upbringing the Marquess provided, her tone dripping with disdain. Apparently, questioning someone's parenting is the universal sign that one has run out of actual arguments. Aracelia freezes at the word upbringing, feeling anger rise as she clenches her fists, realizing her family has just been insulted. She stands, informing the lady that her family taught her not to clean up after other people's sons, and also that when someone speaks nonsense, she should respond with facts. Sophie grows furious, shouting to clarify if Aracelia is calling her words nonsense. Aracelia looks genuinely bewildered, noting she never explicitly said that. But if that is how Sophie interpreted it, she cannot be held responsible for the conclusion. She laughs lightly. Sophie's anger intensifies as she demands to know if Aracelia is mocking her. Damien rises, inserting himself into the exchange, announcing that Aracelia will be living with him in the capital. Sophie stands as well, ordering him to stay out of it, declaring this a conversation between herself, the lady of the house, and an incoming family member. Damien scoffs, questioning when she ever treated him as family before, asking if she is finally acknowledging both him and Lady Aracelia as part of the Vendemir family now. Unless Sophie is planning to begin training her as her successor, she should cease her objections. Sophie grinds her teeth in frustration, realizing he is essentially demanding she acknowledge him as her heir. Aracelia offers an apologetic smile, mentioning that since this is what Damien desires, she has no choice but to comply, adding that the finest support a wife can provide is simply following her husband's wishes. Sophie looks thoroughly irritated by this response. Damien suddenly rises, announcing they will meet at the wedding. Sophie attempts to halt him, insisting the conversation is incomplete, but Aracelia dismisses her entirely, bidding farewell and suggesting she take care of herself until their next encounter. Damien takes her arm, mentioning he will escort her to the carriage. Aracelia glances at him, wondering silently if this is about not laying hands on a woman. Descending the stairs, she contemplates what else requires preparation, listing invitations, wedding dresses, groom's attire, and noting that once the dowry is finalized, he should inform her. Damien responds that she should prepare half and he will handle the remaining portion. Aracelia nods eagerly, warning him she will not hold back. Damien then informs her that the only outstanding items are the contract and marriage registration. He suggests they address those gradually. Aracelia mentions she has been overwhelmed with work at the Mage Tower lately. Damien proposes they visit the temple the day before the wedding instead, noting his own busy schedule, which she is well aware of. Aracelia teases him, commenting that the bride is apparently too occupied swinging swords around, then darts away before he can react, promising to stop by after work to review the contract piece by piece. As she hurries, she catches her foot and begins tumbling forward, but Damien catches her securely. She looks up to thank him, but he withdraws his arm, advising her to exercise more caution and questioning what she would do if injured. He adds sincerely that they cannot predict what might occur before the wedding, clenching his fist as he warns her about those opposing the marriage. His concern is touching, though his delivery needs significant work. He steps away, instructing the butler to see her out. Aracelia calls after him, puzzled by his strange behavior today and questioning why he seems so unusually tense. With only 7 days remaining until the wedding, Aracelia's mother fumes at her daughter's apparent laziness, shouting that she should at least attempt to muster some enthusiasm for her own ceremony, warning that she cannot appear even slightly lacking because society will tear her apart for it. Aracelia shouts back that she will simply tear them apart first, adding that she needs to head to work soon and asking if she cannot try on the dresses later. Her sister Iris remarks that this exact attitude is what landed them in this situation. Aracelia throws a minor tantrum, declaring everything annoying. Their mother despairs, wondering what they will do with her. Iris urges their mother to calm down, reminding her that her sister always comes through eventually and they know how she operates. Their mother hopes fervently that this proves true. She then smiles at Iris, mentioning that only her marriage remains now, inquiring if she has anyone in mind or if she should assist in finding someone suitable. Iris smiles awkwardly, explaining she will begin searching slowly, and if no appropriate candidate appears, she will let her know. Aracelia glances at her, suggesting it would be hilarious if her sister ended up unmarried after all this fuss. Iris pleads with her not to say such things. Their mother fixes Aracelia with a dead stare, demanding she confirm she was joking. Aracelia has no choice but to agree, telling her sister she was merely jesting. Their mother sighs wearily, declaring that Iris is all she has left and she is counting on her more than anyone right now. Iris smiles reassuringly, telling her not to worry. Aracelia yawns, advising her mother to stop pressurizing Iris so much, because at this rate her sister will suffocate. Their mother grows angry, nearly striking her, demanding that she take after her even slightly, shouting that she never listens but always has plenty to say. Araceliya attempts to hide behind her sister while her mother continues, yelling, insisting she try on at least 2 or 3 dresses before leaving for work. Iris tells Araceliya not to worry, explaining that their mother might complain constantly, but deep down she is genuinely happy, especially since this is a love match rather than a political arrangement. Adding that if it were an arranged marriage, Iris herself would be the one wearing the dress. Araceliya remarks that perhaps she would have managed fine with a political marriage. Iris smiles, insisting she would never have allowed that. There is no way she would sacrifice her sister to some political union. Araceliya looks at her, questioning if it is acceptable to sacrifice Iris instead then. Iris clarifies that is not what she meant. Araceliya presses further, asking if that is truly the case. Why is she the one being spared while Iris would be forced into an arranged marriage? Her logic is questionable, but her delivery is flawless. Iris smiles gently, explaining it is because she has a dream. Araceliya questions whether she herself lacks one simply because Iris believes she must. Iris suggests that if she had to define it, getting married could be considered her dream. Araceliya looks at her pointedly, noting that is their mother's dream, not hers, urging her to find something she genuinely wants to pursue. Suddenly noticing the clock, Araceliya panics, realizing she is running late. She leaps from the sofa, dashing toward the door, announcing she will head straight to work and pleading with her sister not to tell their mother. Iris watches her depart, pondering her own dreams, realizing she has never truly contemplated them. After completing her duties at the Magic Tower, Araceliya informs her subordinates she is leaving first, dark circles visible beneath her eyes. Her juniors nod understandingly, telling her to take care. Araceliya observes them, noting they all appear equally exhausted, understanding that the floating stone research has stagnated for weeks, realizing that at this rate, even after marriage, she will still be working overtime. Just as she exits, a butler greets her, startling her. The man explains he is here to escort her by Lord Vendemir's orders. Araceliya looks confused, questioning which Lord Vendemir he refers to. The man confirms that Lord Vendemir issued the instruction. Araceliya studies the butler with puzzlement as she steps into the carriage, inquiring about their destination. The man responds that he is transporting her to the estate. Araceliya reflects silently on Damien's warning about potential dangers before the wedding from those opposing the union. Before entering, she casts the man a sharp glance, curious to discover whatever scheme they have concocted. As the carriage rolls forward, numerous figures lurk on the rooftop. The driver signals them while the butler seated inside observes Araceliya, calculating that the target appears to be merely a noble lady. The client only requested injury severe enough to immobilize her temporarily, so breaking a limb or two should suffice. Suddenly, Araceliya's eyes snap open, addressing the man directly. He startles, asking if something troubles her. Purple energy erupts around her as she produces a magic stone, recalling his words, and blasts through the carriage. The men on the rooftop stare in shock as the butler screams for them to flee. The red-haired man grinds his teeth in frustration, admitting he assumed she was merely some delicate noble lady, realizing they have selected the wrong target entirely. Araceliya emerges from the wreckage, challenging the men to come out and face her, labeling them cowards. The red-haired man leaps down, weapon drawn. Araceliya conjures a magic circle that dances around her fingers, launching an attack that slams him directly into the ground. He orders his remaining men to swarm her. As they close in from all directions, she grows irritated, unleashing her magic to halt their assault entirely. The men stare in disbelief, recognizing that not a single strike has landed. She stands centered among them, asking if they understand that mages from the tower earn star badges based on merit. She explains that while the tower master possesses 7 and most mages cannot obtain even 1, she has earned 4. Her credentials suggest their retirement plans just got permanently delayed. She smirks, displaying her badges, warning them not to anticipate a pleasant demise as they cry out in pain. After delivering her lesson thoroughly, she transports them bound by magic to Damien's estate. The moment they appear before him, they immediately begin apologizing. Damien stares at the scene, questioning her about these men. Araceliya scoffs, suggesting his father apparently sent her these gifts, inviting him to have a little chat with them. Damien glares at her, thoroughly perplexed. One of the men, his eyes swollen shut, confesses that yes, the Duke of Vendemere ordered it specifically, to injure the lady just enough to keep her immobile for a while. Damien immediately whirls toward Aracelia, a frantic edge in his voice as he asks if she is hurt anywhere, apologizing in a hurried rush. The lady confirms she is unharmed, but looks at him in confusion, questioning why he is even apologizing. Then a sudden realization dawns on her, and she asks outright if those men were sent by him. Damien looks utterly stunned, sputtering as he asks if she genuinely believes him to be insane. He lowers his gaze, muttering that he likely wants her safe even more than she does. Aracelia blinks at him, thoroughly bewildered. Regaining her composure, she places a dainty foot on one of the groaning attackers, instructing Damien to clean up this mess because she cannot even think straight with these thugs staring at her. Damien promptly calls for his butler, who efficiently hauls the men away. Once they are alone, Damien asks her directly if, after all this, she has reconsidered the marriage and wishes to call it off. Aracelia's eyes light up with mischief as she declares that no, she is actually more fired up now. Does he not understand that the harder a flower is to pick, the more determined a gardener becomes? Besides, she refuses to let her sister end up miserably at the mercy of the Vendemere heir. Damien mulls this over, admitting that honestly, marrying his brother would likely bring misery too, yet she seems more certain of that outcome than he is. His eyes widen as he realizes her words almost imply she thinks he will be directly responsible for her sister's death. Aracelia fixes him with a steady look, pointing out that it is not impossible. She has a strong feeling the Duke of Vendemere is precisely the type to commit at least one act of terrorism in his lifetime. Damien scoffs, dismissing the notion that his spineless, cowardly brother could ever manage such a thing. Aracelia offers a sly smile, countering that it is always the quiet ones scheming in the shadows who prove most dangerous, which is exactly why she is trying to marry an unlucky knight like him. Is it not? Damien lets out an exasperated chuckle, visibly struggling to tolerate her keen observations for one more day. Aracelia then softens, assuring him not to worry because she has no intention of backing out halfway. She embarked on this path for her family's sake and refuses to carry regrets. Damien finally smiles, acknowledging her resolve and promising to handle the aftermath, ensuring nothing like this happens again. Aracelia turns to leave, remarking that this is excellent news because the wedding is just around the corner, and she would prefer no further complications. She mentions that it is getting late, so she will be heading off, adding that they can discuss the contract terms tomorrow. Suddenly, Damien steps closer, and Aracelia looks up at him in confusion, only to be startled when his face unexpectedly invades her personal space. He explains with a perfectly straight face that he merely wanted to verify she truly was not hurt anywhere. Aracelia quickly backs away, pointing out that she might have sustained an injury beneath her clothing. Damien nods thoughtfully, then remarks that is hardly something he can inspect for her. Turning away, he suggests she check herself and, if injured, simply send him the medical bill. Aracelia offers a tight smile, declining with a crisp no thanks, and marches off, fuming inwardly at how his infuriating manner of speaking gets under her skin. Once she departs, Damien summons Isaac, his tone shifting to something far more serious as he demands a full investigation by any means necessary. He fixes Isaac with a hard glare, insisting he uncover exactly who those mercenaries were that attacked her. The next morning, Damien arrives unannounced at the Vendemere Duke's capital estate. Maids flutter about in a panic, desperately trying to block his path, warning that the Duke will be absolutely furious if he barges in like this. Damien pays them no mind and smashes directly into the room. His father is seated within and coldly remarks on such rudeness. Damien retorts that it is no more rude than a father who sends an offensive gift to his son's fiancée. The old man blinks in genuine confusion, asking what gift he means. Damien tosses some papers onto the desk, presenting his father with two options. Remain quiet until the wedding, and he will cover up the incident by framing the mercenaries as common bandits, or force Damien to raise his own reputation as a romantic hero who bravely reported his own father for the sake of his beloved. The Duke's face reddens with rage as he roars, demanding to know how his son dares threaten him. Damien merely shrugs, noting that all he has to do is choose. The Duke fumes, realizing the mercenaries he hired somehow died before being captured, yet now written confessions exist. He snatches up a letter, questioning if Damien thinks he is the only one who will suffer if this comes to light. Damien calmly acknowledges they will both take damage, but then poses a pointed question. What does his father imagine will happen if His Majesty hears about this? The Duke erupts in fury again, but Damien remains unmoved, stating flatly that he is not giving up this marriage, leaving his father no choice but to pick an option. Cornered, the Duke grudgingly agrees to the story that his son's bride Toby was attacked by random bandits, and he supposedly does not even know how to comfort Damien over it. Damien smiles pleasantly and assures him not to worry. Then, with impeccable timing, he produces a written pledge formally approving the marriage and slides it across the desk, pen included. All his father needs to do, he explains, is sign. And so, a few days later, the Duke of Vandermeer officially approves the union between Aracelia and Damien, one day before the wedding, while signing the prenuptial agreement. At the Great Temple, the notary greets the soon-to-be-wed couple with practiced neutrality and inquires what document requires his certification. Damien slides a folder across the table, explaining this is a prenuptial agreement and emphasizing that only the three of them may ever know its contents. Aracelia then recites the terms with crisp efficiency. No children during the marriage, no unnecessary physical contact, active cooperation for each other's benefit, no prying into personal secrets. Absolutely no falling in love during the contract period, immediate divorce upon Damien's succession to the dukedom, and in case of divorce, only jointly acquired assets will be divided fairly. The notary listens with an expression of professional detachment, then swears solemnly as a servant of Stenia, guardian deity of the Cetron Empire, that all conversation and documents exchanged here shall remain strictly confidential. Both parties smile, and Aracelia offers a gracious thank you. Emerging from the temple, Damien announces that concludes everything and suggests they simply see each other tomorrow at the ceremony. Just as he turns to leave, Aracelia calls him back. He pivots, one eyebrow arched in question. She delivers what she calls a simple warning. No matter how charming he may be, he is absolutely not permitted to fall for her. Damien sputters, asking if she realizes that talking nonsense so frequently might actually indicate a medical condition. Aracelia smiles serenely, explaining she has endured so much trouble simply because she is too beautiful, so he really ought to beware. She flutters her eyelashes dramatically, advising him not to genuinely develop feelings, as unrequited love is nothing but misery. Damien shakes his head, observing that she remains excessively confident regarding romantic matters. Aracelia saunters off, tossing back that confidence is really all that matters. Pausing, she glances over her shoulder and bids him see her at the wedding tomorrow. He nods, telling her to be careful out there. From behind a nearby tree, shadowy eyes track their departure. The observer muses silently why the pair visited the temple notary specifically. Submitting marriage documents was expected, but consulting a notary suggested something far more significant. A slow grin spreads across his face as he realizes this means conditions must be attached to Lady Aracelia and Sir Damien's union, information requiring immediate transmission to His Highness the Crown Prince. Returning to the castle, he delivers his report promptly. The Crown Prince stiffens in shock upon learning Aracelia visited the notary, demanding to know what she had notarized. His man apologizes, admitting he could not uncover that much detail. After a contemplative silence, the Crown Prince slams a book onto the table, startling his subordinate. He then instructs the man to wait and step back for further orders. Tomorrow is Aracelia's wedding day, after all. A smirk curves his lips as he contemplates wanting to meet with Aracelia. Just the two of them, quietly, before the ceremony. At long last, the wedding day arrives. Damien stands within the Grand Temple, looking so exceptionally handsome that the assembled ladies find themselves utterly mesmerized. They whisper among themselves, lamenting that they once imagined marrying him someday, and now they burn with jealousy toward Lady Aracelia, whom they deem impossibly fortunate. One young woman who previously harbored dreams of wedding Damien, however, announces she is no longer envious. Her companion asks why, given how much she used to adore him. The First Lady explains that since his heart now belongs to Aracelia, oddball mage and all, despite rumors of her being somewhat mad, she cannot imagine anyone else complimenting Damien's beauty quite like his bride, except herself, naturally, but she graciously concedes defeat. In the bridal waiting room, Aracelia is being adorned in a stunning blue gown. She turns to her siblings, asking their opinion. They gaze at her with sparkling excitement, declaring she looks breathtaking. Even her father blinks back tears, unable to fathom that his daughter is actually getting married. Her mother gently scolds him to stop, pointing out that if he weeps now, what will he do later during the actual ceremony? Iris looks at Aracelia with worried eyes, confessing she already frets about how she will manage without her sister around. The younger boy shyly presents her with flowers, and Aracelia thanks him warmly. She then reassures Iris not to worry, promising to visit often and reminding her sister she is always welcome at the maid's tower. Iris nods vigorously, insisting she will definitely come. Suddenly, a knock sounds at the door. Aracelia grants permission to enter, and the crown prince strides in. Everyone immediately bows in respect. He addresses the assembled family, requesting a private moment alone with Aracelia and asking if they would kindly step outside. Her mother hesitates, confusion flickering across her face, but the crown prince assures her it will only take a moment. He simply wishes to say goodbye as a friend. Once the door closes behind them, Aracelia regards him steadily, mentioning that he never replied to her, so she assumed he was not coming. He tilts his head, asking if she did not want him to come. She smiles, clarifying that of course she did. He is, after all, her friend. He returns the smile, agreeing wholeheartedly. How could he possibly miss his friend's wedding, especially hers? She is someone he genuinely treasures. In that spirit, he suggests they make a promise. Aracelia blinks in confusion, inquiring what kind of promise. He gestures toward her, admitting he still thinks it is a shame she is marrying Damien, but he has no intention of cutting ties over it. He reaches out, lightly holding a strand of her hair between his fingers, and murmurs that no matter what happens, he will not let her go, because one day she will regret this marriage. Aracelia's eyes flash with irritation as she insists she will not regret it. He smiles enigmatically, countering that if she ever does, she should come find him. Even if she is buried in the mud, he will gladly extend his hand to her. Aracelia smacks his hand away, her tone crisp as she informs him she appreciates his loyalty, but he should realize he is saying some seriously rude things right now. The crown prince apologizes gracefully for offending her. She sighs, telling him she will let it slide just this once. He nods, turns, and departs with a simple farewell. Aracelia stares at the door where the crown prince just exited, genuinely puzzled as to why he has been picking fights with her so persistently lately. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the temple, the assembled noblemen are thoroughly stunned that Aracelia is actually getting married, and to a knight, of all people. They never imagined their formidable commander would seriously tie herself to someone like Damien. Aracelia's own subordinates exchange bewildered glances, privately wondering if she somehow did something to the poor man. Sophie observes the general lack of enthusiasm and muses that truly, no one here seems genuinely happy about this wedding. Honestly, she reflects, it should have been her Oscar marrying into the Hugo family instead. She turns to the elderly woman beside her, addressing her as mother and seeking agreement. The old lady is the Dowager Duchess of Vandermeer, Damien's paternal grandmother, and she sniffs disdainfully, remarking that getting married in a place far too grand for his station is typical of that boy. She scoffs, unable to believe His Majesty actually granted this temple for such a disgraceful wedding. Sophie nods eagerly in agreement, then adds with a sly laugh that Damien still does not understand what happens when he overreaches. The Dowager Duchess turns to Sophie with barely concealed fury, snapping that Damien has been out of the family's care since he was young, so of course he never learned proper manners. All he ever does, she seethes, is get in their son's way, the ungrateful little brat. Nearby, Ewan, Damien's father, grinds his teeth in frustration, his face mottled with anger. The Dowager Duchess suddenly dabs at her eyes, calling out to her son Alex, convinced he must have been so stressed to end up looking like this. Sophie nudges Oscar, urging him to say something supportive to his grandmother as well, but whirls around in shock to find him missing. She grabs a maid, shrieking to find her son immediately. The flustered maid stammers that the young master said he was going to the restroom. Sophie fumes at her absent child. Elsewhere in the corridor, a young man with striking blue hair is thoroughly annoyed with Damien. If his half-brother absolutely had to get married, Oscar grumbles inwardly, could he not have done it quietly? Why must he drag everyone into this tedious affair? Passing by the bridal room, Oscar overhears voices and peeks inside curiously. He realizes this is where the bride awaits and is momentarily stunned by the vision of loveliness before him. Without hesitation, he bangs the door open and introduces himself with theatrical flair, informing Aracelia she must be delighted to make his acquaintance. Since they are about to become family, he explains, he simply had to come say hello. He chuckles, opining that she is far too beautiful for his little brother. What a shame, really, because honestly, he would have suited her much better. He smirks, wondering aloud how anyone could hand such a gorgeous woman to someone like Damien. At this rate, he muses brazenly, perhaps he will end up marrying her right here instead. He is shamelessly flirting when Aracelia's fingers clench convulsively on her gown. She rises abruptly, a flash of something dark crossing her features. For one searing moment, she imagines this is the man who killed her sister. But she reins it in, calling out to him sharply. Oscar blinks, asking if she has suddenly lost her heart to him. She informs him flatly that, no, his face actually resembles a flat and flabby starfish stuck stubbornly to a rock, and he should return to his family before she personally throws him into the ocean. Oscar sputters, hopping in indignant outrage, demanding how she could possibly say such things. Aracelia adds serenely that his existence is insulting enough on its own, so really this is fine. He is still spluttering when Damien appears behind him, voice dangerously calm as he inquires what exactly Oscar thinks he is doing here. Oscar whips around, demanding to know why Damien is there. Damien replies evenly that it is quite simple. He is warning Oscar to stay away from his bride. Oscar bristles, shouting about being bossed around. Damien steps closer, placing a firm hand on his half-brother's shoulder, and asks softly if Oscar still does not understand. This time, he explains, not even their precious Duchess grandmother can interfere. And without her protection, Oscar is merely a pathetic man who cannot accomplish anything on his own. So he should shut up quietly and get lost. Oscar grinds his teeth in sheer frustration, spitting out a venomous curse at his half-brother. From behind them, Aracelia's voice rings out sharply as she orders Oscar to leave immediately, warning that if he does not exit this instant, she will summon the guards. Oscar whirls toward her, fury contorting his features, ready to unleash a retort. But Damien smoothly interjects, asking with mock innocence if Oscar would perhaps prefer returning to the sea, since he is, after all, a starfish. Oscar explodes, demanding Damien shut his damn mouth, before storming toward the door and slamming it shut behind him, snarling that he is leaving because this place is utterly disgusting. From outside, Apple's frustrated voice drifts through the door, scolding Damien for barging into the bridal waiting room without consideration. No matter how urgent, one simply does not do such things. Damien calls back that he saw nothing untoward inside, so she need not worry. He then turns to leave, pausing only to lower his head and murmur an apology for the intrusion. Just as he reaches the door, Aracelia's voice stops him. She mentions, with a hint of a smile in her tone, that she will look exceptionally pretty today, so he should prepare himself not to be too shocked when he sees her later. Damien nods briefly, acknowledging he understands, and departs. Throughout the palace, every corner has been adorned in splendor for their upcoming wedding ceremony. The officiant takes his position and announces that the groom's entrance will now commence, requesting the audience to welcome him with a round of applause. Damien strides in as music swells around him, his charming aura filling the space. Several ladies dab at their eyes, utterly captivated by his striking presence. One smitten young woman actually weeps with happiness, genuinely hoping he finds joy in this union. Now comes the moment everyone has anticipated. The bride, the undisputed star of today's ceremony, makes her entrance. The entire assembly gasps in astonishment. Aracelia's sister gapes openly, utterly awed by her beauty. Even Damien's eyes widen comically, practically bulging as he takes her in. She absolutely sparkles, her brilliant blue eyes fixed squarely on her groom. Her father gently takes her hand and places it in Damien's, officially handing her over. Damien gazes at her, struck by the realization that this woman is now his bride, his new family. The wedding vows commence, and both partners solemnly accept each other. The maid of honor steps forward, inviting them to exchange rings together. They slide the bands onto each other's fingers. After placing the ring on Damien's hand, Aracelia looks up at him and murmurs that she looks forward to their life together. He blinks, visibly astonished by her unexpected sweetness, then smiles warmly and assures her he will do his best as well. With that, the officiant declares before God that Damien and Aracelia are now husband and wife. Thunderous applause erupts throughout the temple. Aracelia's family weeps openly, overwhelmed with emotion. On the opposite side, Damien's family sits stone-faced, grinding their teeth in barely concealed frustration, their expressions thoroughly disinterested. The Crown Prince observes in brooding silence before quietly ordering his men to locate the man awaiting his command. He instructs them to use any means necessary, threats or bribes, he cares not which, to uncover exactly what legal proof those two obtained from the priest Aracelia consulted. After the ceremony, the reception commences. Guests swarm the new couple, offering congratulations and well wishes. Aracelia graciously thanks everyone for their kind words. Suddenly, she startles at a new arrival. Paula, the eldest daughter of the Hayden Marquisate, sweeps in with radiant excitement. The beautiful lady clasps Aracelia's hands enthusiastically, exclaiming she never actually supposed Aracelia would marry anyone, but here she is, tying the knot with what seems like a wonderful husband. Aracelia glances toward Damien, considers his face briefly, then deadpans that he is not that wonderful. Paula bursts into laughter, telling Aracelia to stop joking. Suddenly, Aracelia remembers her friend Frederick and inquires about him. Paula mentions spotting him leaving in a rush earlier, suggesting something urgent must have come up. Aracelia thanks her for the information, and Paula suggests they absolutely must arrange a meeting for the three of them sometime. A sharp voice cuts through the merriment, calling out to Damien from behind. He turns, startled, and finds his grandmother advancing toward him. She demands to know what he thinks he is doing, then addresses the ladies present, asking acidly if their mothers never taught them to greet elders first on important days. Damien's expression tightens with frustration as recognition dawns. This is precisely the person Lord Damien warned them about, his biological grandmother. Before the wedding ceremony, Damien and Aracelia share a quiet moment together as she sips her tea. She suddenly inquires whether he thinks they should visit the duchy, pointing out that they ought to pay their respects to his grandmother. Correct? Damien advises her there is absolutely no need to greet that particular grandmother, explaining she functions more as his older brother's grandmother than his own. Unless, he adds dryly, she has a peculiar fondness for being insulted, in which case, by all means, she should go. Now, as the old lady stands before her at the reception, she sharply questions Aracelia whether her mother failed to teach her about greeting elders on important days. Aracelia's mouth drops open, stunned by the immediate insult directed at her mother. Recovering swiftly, she offers a pleasant greeting, acknowledging it has been some time. She introduces herself with a charming smile, expressing hope they will get along splendidly. The grandmother fixes her with a cold stare, remarking that her greeting arrives ridiculously late. She notes that Aracelia apparently lacked time to visit, but somehow found time for a wedding. Aracelia chuckles lightly, agreeing that, yes, isn't that exactly right? She suddenly grips Damien's arm, pointing out how lucky they are to have found time today. Damien startles internally, realizing she just used his name so casually. The old lady snaps that she was addressing Aracelia, not him. Aracelia sighs apologetically, admitting she has never been particularly skilled at picking up on such cues. She then politely requests that the old lady correct herself because she is now Aracelia Vendemir. She asks sweetly if the adjustment is still difficult and assures her it is perfectly fine. She will simply keep reminding her until it sticks. The old lady gapes, momentarily speechless at Aracelia's audacity. She turns to her grandson and observes that he truly did find a bride cut from the same cloth as himself. Damien, seeing no graceful exit, mutters his thanks to his grandmother. The old lady chuckles darkly, turning away and remarking that both of them are equally brazen. She will watch with great interest to see how this union fares. Damien exhales heavily the moment she departs. Aracelia whirls toward him, confessing she was terribly nervous and asking if she handled it adequately. He steps back slightly, realizing how close she has leaned in, and assures her that for such a sudden encounter, she performed remarkably well. She even used his name so naturally. Aracelia brightens excitedly, declaring that it is only natural since they are married, so he should start calling her Aracelia too. Damien blinks at her in mild confusion, then informs her flatly that he actually prefers calling her wife. He scoffs lightly, turning away. Aracelia visibly cringes at his choice of address, her expression twisting with distaste. Damien notices immediately and warns her through gritted teeth to mind her expression because half the reception is staring at them. She glances around and confirms he is correct. Every single guest has their attention fixed on the newlyweds. Plastering on a brilliant smile, she leans in and whispers that perhaps they should be linking arms instead of critiquing each other's facial expressions. He mutters that he would rather not. She laughs softly, questioning what kind of married couple navigates a reception without even touching. He counters that plenty do. From across the room, her sister watches them with misty eyes, utterly convinced they are blissfully happy together. Damien sighs in resignation and drapes an arm around Aracelia's shoulder, carefully maintaining exactly 1 millimeter of space between his hand and her skin. She deems this acceptable, given the circumstances. Later, after the ceremony concludes, they arrive at the Damien mansion. Apple hovers nearby, asking Aracelia if she feels nervous about her wedding night. Aracelia turns to her maid and explains that Damien is famously averse to physical contact, so there is truly nothing to fear. Apple frets anyway, worrying aloud that Damien appears rather robust and might accidentally crush Aracelia in his sleep. Aracelia chuckles at the mental image, reassuring her maid that such a scenario will not occur. She bids Apple goodnight and sends her off to rest. Now alone before the imposing door to their chambers, Aracelia pauses, reflecting that while tonight is technically her wedding night, the entire arrangement is merely performance to deceive the ducal family. Nothing untoward will happen. She knocks firmly. Damien opens the door and invites her inside. She steps in and freezes, momentarily distracted. This is her first time seeing him with his hair down. Recovering quickly, she enters properly, then suddenly startles. He asks what is wrong. She points accusingly at the wall, demanding to know why such an ominous sword hangs there. He blinks and reminds her that he is, in fact, a knight. She retorts sharply that he seems to have forgotten she is a mage. If he insists on displaying a sword, basic fairness requires hanging a staff beside it. "Do not be petty," she adds. Damien sighs and agrees to order one immediately, requesting that she now drop the matter. She nods, then raises one finger. "One more thing," she announces. He braces himself. She suggests they settle the bed situation with rock, paper, scissors, as she has no intention of sharing. Damien exhales wearily and tells her to simply take the bed. Her face lights up, but she immediately proposes alternating nights just to be fair. He waves dismissively, heading toward the sofa, and informs her she may use it permanently. He will hardly ever be here anyway. She practically launches herself onto the mattress in triumph, calling out that he cannot possibly take back his words now. Aracelia bounces onto the bed, delighting in its incredible softness, then promptly collapses onto the mattress, realizing just how exhausted she truly is. This feels absolutely magnificent. Across the room, Damien pours wine into a glass and begins drinking. She sits up, watching him curiously, and asks if he enjoys alcohol. He shrugs, replying that it is merely convenient since the bottle sits before him. She presses further, inquiring whether he holds his liquor well, noting that he appears somewhat tipsy already. His cheeks flush slightly as he admits, rather reluctantly, that he cannot consume much alcohol. She stares at him in bewilderment. He has only had one drink, and apparently that single glass represents his limit. He grows frustrated, telling her sharply to mind her own affairs and simply go to sleep. She protests that sleeping next to someone intoxicated holds no appeal. He assures her there is nothing to fear, insisting he does not become unruly and will drift off momentarily. She observes him carefully, concluding that he genuinely looks inebriated and likely will fall asleep soon. Deciding to follow suit, she settles back into the luxurious bedding. The sun rises, streaming through the curtains, and Aracelia blinks awake. She rubs her eyes, realizing morning has arrived. Stretching languidly, she reminds herself it is time to prepare for work. Just as she swings her legs off the bed, her gaze falls upon Damien and she freezes. He lies on the sofa, teeth grinding fiercely, his entire body drenched in sweat and trembling violently. She stares in confusion, wondering what has suddenly come over him. Approaching cautiously, she attempts to rouse him, but he only cries out louder, shouting, "No," as tears stream down his face. In a broken whisper, he calls out desperately for his mother. In his dream, a younger version of himself stands in the Duke's mansion where his mother once lived during his childhood. A voice calls out to him from behind a large door, urging him to come quickly before it is too late. He moves closer, recognizing the voice as his mother's. A hand reaches out to him, gently touching his face, and a voice murmurs that he is such a good child. She whispers despairingly that she does not know what to do. There is no more time left. Suddenly, the hand retreats back into the room and he screams no, desperately calling for his mother. He jolts awake, eyes flying open, and finds Aracelia gazing down at him, her hand clasping his, asking if he is all right. His face flushes crimson as he yanks his hand away and sits up abruptly, shouting at her not to touch him. She recoils, frustrated, explaining that she only woke him because he seemed trapped in a nightmare. He snaps that he never requested her intervention, so she should not expect gratitude for acting according to her own whims. She erupts in anger, calling him rude and demanding to know how he dares speak to her like this so early in the morning. They were just married yesterday, after all. He should remember that. Suddenly, she throws her hands up, declaring that fine. It is all her fault, and he need not worry because she will never attempt to wake him again. He retorts that it is excellent, and she should leave now. She spins on her heel, announcing she's already going and muttering that he is seriously insufferable. He watches her. Go, eyes narrowing, confirming to himself that they absolutely should not share a room any more than absolutely necessary. Aracelia storms out of the chamber, still fuming, when her maid gasps and demands to know where she is going dressed like that. Aracelia responds curtly that she will change first and then proceed to breakfast. In the dining room, she sits alone, still nursing her anger toward Damien. She wonders bitterly what kind of newlyweds cannot even share breakfast together on their first morning. Suddenly, someone appears and inquires whether the meal is to her liking. It is Colin, Damien's aide. Lilith offers a pleasant good morning, and Aracelia asks what brings her. The aide explains she felt she did not properly greet the new lady of the house at yesterday's reception, so she has come now. As the one serving the young master, she continues, she will do her utmost to also be of assistance to Aracelia. Aracelia smiles and replies that she will certainly count on her then. The aide informs her that after breakfast, the maids responsible for managing the mansion are ready to meet with her. Aracelia acknowledges the information, and Audrey mentions that it is almost time for her to depart. Aracelia asks if it is already that hour, then rises, stating she should get going. Another maid offers to clear the table, and Aracelia inquires after her name. The maid introduces herself as Rosalind. Aracelia entrusts her with the task, then adds curiously that she has been staring ever since Aracelia entered. Was there something she wished to say? Rosalind flusters, apologizing nervously and explaining that this is her first day working here. Aracelia assures her there is no need for apologies. She only asked because the staring piqued her curiosity. The entire room falls silent. Every servant now turned to look at her. Aracelia senses the atmosphere growing awkward, feeling momentarily foolish for drawing attention. Suddenly, Audrey laughs warmly, suggesting that perhaps Rosalind was simply captivated by Aracelia's beauty, because it is true their new mistress possesses a face that astonishes at first glance. Aracelia beams, asking if that is really true, knowing Audrey never lies. Rosalind quickly agrees, insisting it is true because Aracelia is genuinely beautiful. Relieved laughter ripples through the staff, and Colin gently suggests they should head outside now. Approaching the door, Aracelia finds the household staff assembled to greet her. They open the door and inquire whether she slept well. Aracelia returns their good mornings warmly as she descends the stairs, announcing that she is not a demanding mistress, so serving her should prove relatively easy. She adds that she will be occupied with her tower work most days, so they will have plenty to manage. She formally introduces her trusted maid Audrey to everyone, requesting they get along well, and instructs them to direct any concerns to Audrey. She concludes by saying she will be counting on them. The staff bids her farewell, wishing her a safe journey. For the first time, Aracelia has greeted the servants as the new lady of the Vandermeer household. She extended genuine kindness to the lovely maids, but words spoken with goodwill can be twisted and abused, a lesson Aracelia has yet to learn. Rumors quickly spread among the staff about the new mistress eating breakfast separately on her very first day of marriage. One maid smirks, murmuring that this information should be reported immediately. Across the city in the Vandermeer Duchy, Sophie laughs upon reading a letter detailing that the newlyweds dined apart on their first morning. She wonders aloud whether they might even be using separate chambers. Turning to her husband, she offers him the letter. The man slams the paper onto the table, startling her. She asks if something is wrong with His Majesty's correspondence. He smirks darkly, remarking that perhaps even the gods have abandoned their adversaries. He instructs his wife to send word to the spy planted within the Damien mansion, do whatever it takes at any cost to engineer a divorce between Damien and Aracelia. At the Hugo Manor, Aracelia's mother stares in surprise at her daughter's arrival. She questions whether it is appropriate for Aracelia to visit so frequently now that she has a new family. Her father chimes in, asking if she has already quarreled with her husband. Aracelia assures them that is not the case. They are simply both exceptionally busy. Her mother sighs, murmuring something about birds of a feather. Her husband tries to soothe her, pointing out that on the bright side, they get to see their beloved daughter almost every week, yes? The lady admits she cannot help but feel concerned. She reminds Aracelia that she urged her to take additional maids to serve at the Damien Manor, but her daughter insisted on bringing only Audrey. Aracelia, happily munching on cookies, tells her mother not to worry because the head maid appointed new staff for her. Her mother's eyes narrow as she asks what is the most important thing for a new lady of the household. The answer, she supplies, is the number of people within the manor who are on her side. Aracelia laughs lightly, assuring her mother it will be fine. She will hire more staff once she grows more accustomed to domestic life. Her father silently panics, desperately hoping she will stop provoking her mother further. Too late. Her mother's eyes widen, and she suddenly shouts for Aracelia to go back. Aracelia looks at her in shock, asking if she is being kicked out right now. Her mother clarifies that is not the intention. She simply understands how busy both newlyweds are, but visiting her parents every single weekend does not reflect well on a bride. She may have her own unconventional approach to marriage, but most people will find it deeply strange that the newlywed couple spends the majority of their time apart. This could easily become a scandal. Aracelia looks taken aback, insisting she does not fear rumors. Her mother stands firm, urging her to return home early today and have dinner with her husband. Perhaps, she adds pointedly, they could even attempt a conversation for once. Aracelia reluctantly agrees and departs. Back at the Damien Manor, Aracelia feels a pang of sadness, wishing she could have stayed longer at her childhood home. As she enters, Damien greets her with a pointed deer. She glances at him, noting he is home early. He confirms he needs to discuss something urgently and suggests they retire to their bedchamber. Aracelia startles inwardly at his sudden intensity. He steps closer, lowering his voice to inform her they have received word from His Majesty. He holds her gaze meaningfully, suggesting they continue this conversation in private, if she understands. She nods quietly. Once inside their chambers, she reads the letter he hands her. Her eyes widened in shock. The Emperor, she reads, refuses to acknowledge Damien's ducal inheritance. Damien nods in frustration, confirming that the Emperor has imposed an additional condition. Only the person who locates the late Duke's physical will can succeed to the title. Aracelia blinks at him in confusion, asking if that is all. She thought they faced serious trouble, but he can simply produce the will and be done with it. He explains it is not as simple as she assumes. His grandfather's will was only communicated verbally within the family, and nobody knows where the actual document currently resides. Aracelia's eyes widened, questioning whether His Majesty added this condition knowing full well where it might be hidden. Damien acknowledges that possibility, noting that the Emperor and his grandfather were close confidants, which likely explains why his father could never unilaterally name an heir. Nothing was ever certain. Aracelia groans, realizing that at this rate they may not be able to divorce for another 10 years. He apologizes quietly. She shakes her head, insisting that while frustrating, they should focus on finding a solution first, The Emperor would not have assigned such a task without valid reason. He agrees, emphasizing they must locate that will no matter what. His Majesty has always craved one thing. He adds darkly, overwhelming power. The ruler of the Cetron Empire brutally pushed aside his own brother to claim the throne, a cold-blooded strategist who would bargain with demons to obtain his desires. Aracelia sighs, assuming the Duke of Vendemir also received this letter. Damien confirms the family is likely searching for the will at this very moment. Still, he believes they hold an advantage because their sole task is to find it, not to fulfill its contents. Aracelia proposes they locate it first and hide it from the family at any cost. He assures her his men already monitor their every movement. His father will never steal that will from them. He warns her to keep in mind that this development will make everything considerably more hectic. She understands and asks him to inform her immediately if anything occurs. He boasts that he will update her regularly. As she steps toward the door, Aracelia feels a pang of sadness. Things will only grow more complicated, and there seems nothing she can do to help. She clenches her fist, then suddenly brightens, realizing it is time to put her own skills to use. Off to the world of magic she goes. Everyone remains caught off guard by the Emperor's abrupt change in succession rules. Aracelia and Damien grow determined to become the ducal heirs, while the Vandemir family resolves just as fiercely to prevent Damien from inheriting. Each faction sets out on their own mission to locate the late Duke's will. Despite receiving this new mission, one person smirks privately. It is time to begin her true assignment. She must isolate Aracelia from everyone else in the manor, seduce Sir Damien, and weaken their relationship to instigate a divorce. She smiles to herself. After all, they offered a handsome reward. Suddenly, another maid appears, announcing it is time to hang the laundry. Rosalind slips the letter into her dress and tells the other she will be right there. The other maid chatters cheerfully about the wonderful weather, betting the laundry will dry quickly. Rosalind smiles agreeably. As she reaches the laundry area, another maid questions where she has been. Rosalind apologizes, promising to work extra hard to make up for her absence. She studies the two women before her, the loose-lipped pair, she notes internally. In other words, ideal pawns for laying groundwork. One of them smiles, telling the others that Rosalind has an excuse. She cleaned the dining hall for her last time. Rosalind smiles back, mentioning she was sick back then, so of course she helped. Everyone beams, commenting on her kindness and expressing disbelief that her previous master tormented her simply because she was pretty. That must have been rough. They sympathize. Rosalind thanks them for their empathy. The maids wonder aloud whether the new lady of the house will be different. They assure Rosalind not to worry. Their madam seems quite down to earth, unlike other noble women who nitpick over minor details. Rosalind agrees, but hesitates, suggesting perhaps she should not say anything. The maids press her eagerly, promising never to tell a soul. Rosalind leans in conspiratorially, pointing out that while it is good the madam does not nitpick, has she ever actually asked them to do any housework at the manor? The maids exchange shocked glances, realizing they have barely even seen her. Rosalind scrambles to elaborate, explaining that this is precisely what causes her anxiety and concern. What if the madam's apathy stems from disdain for them and the manor itself? She sniffs dramatically, tears welling, confessing she had hoped to serve Sir Damien and the new madam for as long as possible. The other maids start tearing up too, murmuring that she may be right. They recall how the madam visits her parents every weekend and always returns late in the evening. Why did they never question it, they wonder? Rosalind grins inwardly, realizing that isolating Aracelia from the manor people is proving remarkably easy. After a few days, Rosalind launches her scheme. Gossip ripples through the maids like spilled tea. They whisper, wondering if the master and madam are really drifting apart, and one asks if the others have noticed too. They murmur about how the couple never lingers at the manor, and when they do cross paths, it's only a quick, polite nod. Practically a hi. Bye. See you never. They fret over what might happen if a divorce actually happens, biting their nails as if it's a spectator sport. Audrey overhears their chatter, tilting her head in confusion. While serving dinner to her lady, she senses the manor has a strange energy lately and recalls the maid's earlier whispers. Rosalind steps forward with the tea for Aracelia, glares for dramatic effect, then shakes the tray and spectacularly crashes it onto the table, showering Aracelia's dress and tea. She gasps, flustered, begging if her lady is all right and pleading for forgiveness, bowing low enough to risk a neck crick. She insists it was an honest mistake, knowing she deserves punishment and begs for pardon. The maids flinch. Even Audrey looks like she just walked into a soap opera. Realizing she is only cornering Aracelia, Rosalind smirks, thinking her lady must be slightly annoyed by the overblown apology, though everyone else is melting with sympathy. The manor collectively holds its breath until Aracelia stands. Rosaline keeps apologizing, secretly hoping for a scolding worthy of a villain, but Aracelia swoops in, teasing that her hand must have slipped because she was too busy staring at her pretty face. Rosalind freezes, mumbling another apology. Aracelia waves it off, saying, "There's no need to be nervous, she can admire all she likes, and since she's her maid, she won't even invoice her." She drones on about beauty, making Rosalind's clever plan crumble, and Rosalind mutters thanks, cheeks burning. Aracelia keeps going, complimenting her as more radiant than ever. Rosalind shakes her head, realizing Aracelia is untouchable, leaving her no choice but to retreat, defeated, plotting to stir mischief outside the manor. As she turns, Audrey stops her, frowning, asking if she's been making too many mistakes lately. She notes that while Rosaline is new, she is going way too far and must focus on serving Aracelia properly. Rosalind smirks, appreciating the advice, and promises Audrey it will not happen again, silently plotting her next attempt at harmless chaos. Aracelia is utterly exhausted, realizing she keeps getting dumped with more and more work. Even her subordinates are on the verge of tears, asking what they should do next. They have combined every mana stone available in the Cetron Empire, yet the ore will only float for a week at most. One of the men sighs, pointing out that the final magic tool announcement is looming and wonders if they will finish their research on time. The green-haired girl shakes her head, declaring they won't because the situation is hopeless. Aracelia slams her hand on the table, reminding them if they've forgotten who she is, a brilliant genius. Mage, the best pupil to ever grace the halls of both the Academy and the Magic Tower. Her proud speech hits as usual. She promises to make their research a success, insists they put their faith in her, and declares she will take the day off tomorrow. The others gasp, noting that even with overtime every day, time is still short. The boy agrees with Sally, noting they must handle everything from analyzing overseas mana stone research papers to supplying mana to the floating ores. Aracelia stares at them, questioning what she just said when the research clearly isn't going well. Sally tells her to pause, take a break, and find a new approach. The man emphasizes it, saying now she must trust them and rest tomorrow. Sally chokes back tears, and both subordinates silently vow to be loyal partners to Aracelia forever. Sally insists they will return refreshed and ready to work even harder. Aracelia praises the plan and promises to see them the day after tomorrow, then returns to the mansion, breathing heavily, aware she still has work ahead. Audrey notices the mana stone in her hand and urges her to let her carry it since it looks heavy. Aracelia refuses, saying it's important and she must carry it herself. Turning back, she mentions wanting to ask a favor. Suddenly, Damien appears, asking if she has just returned. She looks at him while he says he has to leave and urges her to keep moving. She bristles, realizing he's telling her to get out of the way, wondering if it's her turn to pick a fight. Remembering her mother's words, she knows she can't because it's a love marriage, so she opts to act cute, hoping he takes the hint, happy just to see him again after their busy days. He looks shocked, too tired to read her subtle cues, which boils her blood. Noticing the stone in her hand, he wonders why she carries something heavier than herself and steps forward to take it. She protests, insisting it's not heavy, and thanks him for the offer. He tells her she doesn't need to act strong in front of him, remarking that all she does is sit at a desk researching without ever seeing the sun. So what if she gets hurt? Aracelia snaps, demanding he stay out of it. This is her magnum opus, the floating ore she's been crafting for the last 4 months. He points out it is as light as a feather and floats as high as a bird, calling it the greatest magical tool ever, capable of staying afloat for a week with just a touch of mana, and promises her a special opportunity to witness it firsthand since he is her husband. Given permission, she warns him to watch closely and uses her magic, sending the mana stone floating into the air. Damien's jaw drops, utterly fascinated, while Aracelia beams with pride, asking if she didn't tell him it's a magnum opus. Suddenly she falters and collapses into his arms. He panics, asking what's wrong, while even Audrey gasps. Damien shouts for a physician, urging her to hurry. That's it for now, guys. Hope you enjoyed the story. It's been a minute since I brought an enemies to lovers story to the channel, so drop your theories in the comments and tell me if you want more. There are a few more chapters I can cover if you're into it. I really like a strong female lead who knows how to stand up for herself, but I'm gonna be real. The way she handles the romance problems is kinda childish sometimes. But honestly, maybe that's part of the fun. The series is called In the Name of Special Contract Marriage, and I narrated up to chapter 18. And don't forget to subscribe. A lot of you watch but aren't subscribed, and then you end up missing the new videos when I post. Kisses and see you next time.